everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is going to be a little different style of video because it's going to take place over the course of 3 days. I have a little trio of palettes here. It's called The Weekender from Laura Geller. And I think I've had this on hand for probably a month now, just waiting for the right opportunity to use this thing on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like the palettes say. That probably realistically isn't that important, but I just wanted to do it that way. So here's what this is. This is 3 palettes for $27. I got it from Ulta. Got Flirty Friday, Saturday Style, and Sunday Fun Day. And in each palette, you've got 4 eyeshadows and a blush and a highlight. They all kind of follow a certain color scheme. There's a mirror in here. Every blush and highlight's going to be different in every palette. Of course, all the eyeshadows are different as well. You can see they all have their own specific color scheme. And so I thought I would try all of them and just over the course of 3 days do a look with each. And at the end, just kind of let you know how it all went. But I like the concept a lot. I like the idea of a small palette. I think this is very travel friendly if you just wanted to grab out one and pop it in your bag for a weekend, or to even take all 3 in the little box, I think is really handy too. And I've just recently noticed more questions about how to pair like blush with your eyeshadow look, also lip colors too, but you know, how to choose a cohesive look. And I do think these little palettes do take some of the guesswork out of the process, you know, when you've got the appropriate like blush shade in with the eyeshadows. Not that you would totally have to stick to only one palette. You could definitely have fun bouncing around as well, but I wanted to show you guys what the total look looks like for all of the 3 days. Also, I just wanted to say, I had a moment yesterday where I was just like, overcome with this feeling of gratitude for what I do and kind of just rediscovering the makeup process, because I was in Belle's room with her and we had gotten out some of her play makeup and she was having so much fun going through the process over and over again. She like methodically went through, I'm going to open the powder, I'm going to open the blush, and she was applying it all to herself, and then she'd want to go through all the steps on me as well. And she was so serious and kind of like, I don't know, you can just kind of tell when a kid's sort of satisfied and really into what they're doing. And it just made me think like, this is what I get to get up and do every day, is put my makeup on. That moment like reinvigorated something for me. It lit the spark again. I don't know what to say. Like, I'm always excited to be in here and I love shooting videos, but I think it was just the gratitude for it that came in that moment. Seeing what you do through the lens of a child, seeing how special they really think that this is. And I don't know, that moment just really got me. It just, something spoke to me there and said, you get to do this. And I think we all who are makeup users every day, whether you're shooting a video on it or not, you get to sit down, give yourself that time. I can totally understand the mindset that makeup could be almost a meditative experience in the morning, or it's that creative outlet, or you just really like to experiment with new products. Whatever the root thing is that's kind of pulling you to it, this is something we get to do and it's really awesome. And I don't know, I just thought that was a really cool moment. I hope I'm making sense what I'm saying here, but I love those times when you're really present, you're fully there. You can just watch the child's experience like unfolding for them. And I get this when we're out going on walks and looking at leaves, you know, it doesn't have to be makeup, but sometimes we just go around calling them the little things, but the little things are kind of the big things, you know, the realizations of the little things we get to do in our lives and how grateful we should be for it. But anyway, sorry, you probably didn't come here for that. You came here for the palettes. So I'm going to start talking about Flirty Friday. Since I am going to be doing 3 looks, I thought I might have a tendency to ramble too much if I just talked through all of them. So it's going to be kind of voiceover style here for showing you how I did this look, the Flirty Friday. So the color scheme here, as we can see, is kind of berry, sort of. It kind of makes me think rose gold as well with some of these shades. We have one clearly rich color in the eyeshadows, a couple of lighter shimmers, and a light matte shade as well. So I was kind of wondering, how's this whole thing gonna come together? I'm not so sure. So here's what I did. First, I did blush and highlight. So Love Sick is this matte, kind of dusty rose blush, and I really like the shade. It's very pigmented. Thought it gave a nice color punch to the cheeks. Fields of Gold is the highlight, and it is a gold tone highlight. It looks almost in the pan like it might be kind of dark, but I think it shears out beautifully and gives a really nice glow to the skin. So I was happy with that, although I could see you using Soft Topaz, the eyeshadow in this palette, has an even brighter highlight on the skin as well. But moving on to the eyes, I have primer on my lids, and then I thought I'd go for Blooming Blush, which is the slightly deeper of the two light shimmers over there on the right. And I started applying that to the crease just because I thought maybe when it's not exactly hitting the light, it'll look just slightly deeper. And it did give me a little bit of that vibe. I used Sangria Seduction in my crease with my E25 brush, and this is an interesting shade. It does have shimmer, but it's gonna look deeper when it's not catching the light. So if you put that in your crease, it's gonna have a darker appearance. It's not gonna look quite so foiled and metallic. I decided to use Pink Powder. That's the matte, kind of light, slightly pink tone shade. I used that up under my brow as my highlight. And then I used Soft Topaz on my lid. I used it all around the inner part just to get some brightness going there. And then I continued on with more Sangria Seduction all on the lid. Because I was using a flat brush, I felt like I got a more metallic intensity with that shade in this way, as opposed to putting it in my crease where I got a little softer look. I also used a pencil brush with that color, and I used it on my lower lash line to give a little soft definition there. To finish the look, I actually did off camera add a little more Sangria Seduction, again the darkest shade here, just in my outer corner to see how that would build up. And you can get even more intensity out of that shade when you apply it with a little concentrated brush, you know, just in the outer corner. But I went across my upper lash line with black liquid liner. I used a light liner, my Wet n Wild Ultimate Brow Highlight in my lower inner rim. Just used some mascara top and bottom, and that's the look. Again, paired with the blush and highlight from this palette. And on my lips, I thought I'd go really rich. I used a couple of the lipsticks from the Urban Decay Cherry collection, the actual really rich shade called Cherry, and then in the center of the lower lip, I used Devilish, which is kind of like a metallic shimmery pink, and it layers up with the darker shade pretty nicely. So I am shooting this on Friday. That is the look for Flirty Friday. Overall, I do like the color scheme. I don't think you've got a lot of versatility in this one, seeing as this is your only kind of rich shade, and they went with two relatively light shimmers here. And I thought it could have been a little more well-rounded or offered a little something extra with one different kind of shade, maybe another matte or just another tone in general. But as a whole, I mean, you guys know how I feel about these berry kind of eye looks. I really do like it. So I can't say I'm not a fan of the finished look. I really like the cheek colors as well. But yeah, we'll keep moving on for the other 2 days and see how those looks turn out. Thank you guys for watching. All right, next up we're gonna jump into the palette labeled Saturday Style. This is a pretty cool tone palette. We've got navy blue in our eyeshadow scheme, gray, a really, really soft lilac, a kind of bright, cool pink blush, and a really light highlight as well. So the first thing I'm gonna put on is that pink popsicle blush. This is a matte blush. I feel like it's really pigmented, but yet it's not hard to control. I think the tone is very workable. It's a cool pink, but it's not too bubblegummy, and I think it looks really fresh on the cheeks. And then I was super impressed by the highlight in here. Mineral Ice didn't amaze me in a swatch, but yet as soon as I grazed it across the cheeks in that kind of sheared out manner, it looks so pretty. And then moving on to the eye look, already had my eye primer on. Then I took City Shadow, which is a soft kind of, I can't tell if it's a matte or satin finish gray, but I got that going in my crease. It's super light, so it didn't provide a lot of contrast. And then I used Pure Linen, which is kind of a matte off-white eyeshadow, and I use that as my highlight. I went into La La Lavender, which is a barely there lilac shade. It has a little bit of a satin finish. It's not that this color isn't pigmented, it just doesn't have a lot of purple in it. So I found as I was patting that on the inner part of my lid, I wasn't seeing a lot of purple, so don't really rely on this to be a very purpley look. The real bold color pop here is actually from Stormy Skies, and I feel like this is a soft matte navy. It kind of reminds me of the texture of those IT Cosmetics Naturally Pretty matte eyeshadows, you know? Very easy to work with, easy to blend. There's a nice softness to the shadow, but it doesn't get out of control. However, it is pretty darn pigmented. So I patted this on my lid. I wedged it up into my crease. I feel like every time I pull in a navy blue shadow, I'm reminded of why like navy blue was included in all sorts of brown eyes makeup kits, because it really does bring out the rich brownness. It doesn't turn my eyes green. It doesn't make them gold, but something about it just richens up the look of the brown in my eyes. And I used a smaller brush as well, just in the outer corner, and then I used a pencil brush to take Stormy Skies down underneath on the lower lash line. And then liner-wise, I thought I'd go for a black liner in my lower inner rim and kind of smudge that in with my lower eyeshadow as well. Also off camera, I took the highlighter, the face highlight, and went around my inner corner. Did a thin black liquid line across the upper lashes, and then just mascara top and bottom. Sorry for my wet hair. I did a rare morning shower, so that's that. I've really been impressed with the face colors in these palettes so far, and I think the eyeshadows are very easy to work with. I really feel like I've hit the nail on the head by comparing them to the It Cosmetics matte eyeshadows that are in those longer palettes, the little square pans, and they also put in that transforming pearl color. The textures of these shadows remind me so much of working with those. I find those shadows to be exceptionally easy to blend, and I also always found myself having a hard time distinguishing between, is this actually like a satin finish shadow or is it 100% matte? And I think sometimes when shadows walk that line, it can take a little bit of the edge off a 100% flat matte and just make things a bit easier to navigate and blend out on the eyes. So I see that quality in these Laura Geller shadows for sure. I'm wearing the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk lip liner and lipstick that came out of this Party Girl kit. Gonna be experimenting more with this and reviewing it for you too. But thank you guys so much for watching, and tomorrow we'll move on to Sunday Fun Day. So our Sunday look is kind of our neutral bronzy look. We've got a shimmery bronze eyeshadow, a couple of matte browns, a really soft kind of buttery golden shade, and then our blush is called Apricot Delight. It's a really deep peachy tone and I absolutely love it. It's my kind of blush shade. It's very pigmented. You don't need to use a lot of it. I find it blends very easily into the skin. And then the highlight here is called Copper Pearl, and this is a really classic champagne kind of highlight. I find a little bit of a golden tone coming out in it, but not too much, and I think it's just really flattering on top of that blush shade. So once again, super impressed by the blush and highlight pairings here. And then we're going to move on to the eye look. I've got eye primer on, and I'm using Rich Umber in my crease. Nice medium warm brown, and I just applied that all throughout the crease, blending it up above my crease in the direction of my eyebrow, but not all the way to my eyebrow. And then once I got that all applied, I buffed over the edges and used Golden Girl, the highlight here, right up under my brow, which is a beautiful pearly finish highlighter. Then I decided I wanted to play with a lot of tantalizing taupe all over the lid, and while it's called taupe, I sometimes think of taupes as cooler. This is a really rich, kind of deep bronzy shade, and the more you layer it up, the more you build it up on your eyes, you can see a little bit more gold coming out in it. But overall, I find it to be subtle, wearable. Then I use cedar wood on the outer corner just to build up more depth and intensity, just kind of wanted to see what that color could do. And once I got that built up where I wanted it to be on the upper part of the eye, I also used it with a pencil brush on the lower lash line, mainly on the outer part, and then I took Rich Umber on the innermost part just to kind of fade it inward and soften it up a little bit more. For my finished look here, what you're seeing on my eyes is a black liquid liner across the upper lash line. I used my Wet n Wild Ultimate Brow Highlight in the lower inner rim. I also dabbed a little bit of just this highlight shade right around the inner corner, and I decided to even deepen up my outer corner just a little bit more with a small brush. I just kind of wanted to gauge the intensity level of this palette, but I'm really, really pleased with the finished look. I think it's very soft, very wearable. I feel like I kind of amped up the overall look with a really rich lip. This is Gingerbread Girl from Too Faced, and that is a very rich, deep matte red. So overall, what do we think about these? It's 3 palettes for $27. There's something that really appeals to me about the little booklet that is an entire look. I like the idea here that outside of your lip color, your whole color scheme of your makeup look is kind of laid out for you, and I think it's sort of easy to see what lip color might be good with something like this. I think Laura Geller as a whole throughout her whole line has done some amazing blushes and highlighters in different formats, and I liked that every blush in every palette was unique, and I was very impressed with all the highlights as well. It was plenty of glow from them all. I think this Fields of Gold shade and this one is kind of the deepest highlight, but it was still very pronounced on my skin. While I felt they were all glowy, I never felt like any of it was too metallic, and I've said this a lot with applying highlights, but the way I make them look the most natural is to take my brush and kind of buff them in circular motions into the skin, and it looks less like a product just sitting on top, but you work it in a little more and everything looks so natural. And so I really enjoyed that none of these are glittery highlights. You're not going to look up close at your skin and see actual particles of glitter, so I think a lot of people will enjoy that. And as far as the quality of the eyeshadows go, I mean, I feel like they're soft, they're pigmented, they're easy to work with. I think the color selection in each palette is such that you're not going to get the most dramatic looks ever. I mean, take for example this one here. You've got the Sangria Seduction shade, and then it's 3 relatively light colors, and there might have been some things I would do differently in terms of just the pairing of shades here. I wouldn't have minded if the lavender shade here here actually showed up on the eyes a little more deep and purpley. But I can appreciate and understand the effort to make these all, you know, wearable palettes for people. So if you kind of feel that way about some of these shades, I think it's important to also keep in mind you can mix and match, you know, you're not glued to those four. You could pull in some from this palette too, and certainly use your creativity to get some different looks. But as you could see with my effort to use just one of these and only one for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I wanted to see what look will I actually get? Will I be satisfied with it? And I think I really have been. Now with all of my looks here, I purposely did not put on false lashes. I didn't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, in order to get that glam look, I've got to pop on this certain set of lashes. No, like I just wanted to show you really, this is how the eyeshadow looks, this is how the cheek colors look, and the color selections aren't wildly dramatic or super off the wall, but they are cohesive in each of these little palettes. And I like them for that, and I find them user-friendly for that, and I find them extremely giftable as well. The kinds of things you could put into the hands of someone, they'd open it up and be like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense, you know? They're not overwhelming. I think anybody who is sort of a makeup beginner would get this, open up one of the looks, and immediately kind of understand, okay, I get that color scheme, and it almost trains you to maybe look for what blushes and highlights and eyeshadows do look good together. But the things you've got to keep in mind here are that none of the color schemes are really off the wall. You're not getting any loud colors. Even the shades that are shimmery aren't like foiled metallic necessarily. Every eye look in here I think would be very well suited to like the everyday eye, you know what I mean? I love that ultimately if you just pulled one and traveled with it, stuck it in your bag, you do have a mirror in here, and it's not a cheap unusable mirror, it's a legit mirror. And again, the quality of the face products is definitely on point, so I think for $27 it is a really great deal. I'd love to hear what you guys think if you've tried these. I think it's just kind of a matter of recognizing that maybe not every person out there is a big palette person. Not every person sees a massive eyeshadow palette and thinks, I know exactly where to go with this. So the biggest word I can think of to describe these little guys is approachable. And if you think yourself or someone you're gifting to needs the makeup they use to have that kind of quality, then this might be right up your alley. So thank you again so much for watching, everyone, and I will talk to you again very soon. Bye.